Oh man, my homies. Now you'd think after yesterday, doing my thing, feeling out the weights, realizing how way too heavy everything was, that today we'd be better. And let me tell you, that is not the case. Which is completely fine, by the way. It's just really humbled me, brought me to my knees, made me realize how weak I really am in the moment, and not because I can't pick up a heavy weight. I've just been training so little volume for so long now, with just focusing only on technique and not the conditioning. My core and my low back gets stronger by doing at least a little bit of volume, whether it's rep or set ranges, and I've just been doing top heavy singles for months. So yeah, I'll tell you right now, was not feeling great. But that's kind of part of the process, it's kind of part of what you have to feel. Sorry. You have to feel awful to an extent at some point in order to sit there and be like, okay, now we know. I gave it my best effort. We know exactly where to work on. And it's not like I didn't reduce my gains today. Just because I failed doesn't mean that I didn't still grow. I'm just getting used to the stuff I haven't done in so long, right? So, oh man, I'll just tell you how the weights were feeling for the first part. The clean and jerk immediately was like, okay, well, it's a light clean and jerk day anyway, so I wasn't really worried about it. But yeah, no, it was tough. It's all just in my core for the most part. The form was good. I locked it in where I needed it to. 255 felt pretty good. But the fact that this was supposed to be a light recovery day for a triple is not good. It really shows how much I need to step back and grow. The squats are what really took me down. Because after going a little bit easier yesterday, not going too crazy, after realizing how heavy it was, again, the clean and jerk was hard, but it wasn't as heavy as it would have been. But man, was not moving. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I got to 385 and I was like so convinced that was my top set. I fully hyped up for it, and then I realized the moment I started doing it that I had one more left because I was supposed to go to 395 for a single set of 5 today. Mind you, on my last peak, however many months ago when I was doing this kind of training, I hit 415 for like a 3x4, so in my mind I'm like, oh, we're chilling, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is also the reduced weight number, and when you can't even do one set of 5 at a weight that you're supposed to be able to do for several sets, that hits different. And not because I feel like I failed. Again, that's not the whole point of that. It is solely to just sit there and be like, man, got a lot to learn. Which is a good thing, It's so much more fun than people want to make it seem. Because, I see people in the gym all the time, and they'll come in and they'll be like, hey, man, I'm just feeling like shit. I'm not doing well. I'm not hitting the numbers I was supposed to be hitting. I'm not making any progress anymore. And I'm like, that is the reason you're not making progress, man. The whole idea that you coming to the gym consistently but just not hitting exactly what you expected means that you're not making progress, that's some bullshit right there, let me tell you. It does not matter how much weight you put up. It matters that you're putting in your best efforts. And yes, I definitely went way too heavy on the squats today. Even going under the last weight, I really thought I had a decent chance. But the strength is there. It all really just comes down to my core conditioning is not there anymore, I used to be doing so much more volume, and there was a time, the reason I went to the low volume program was because I was injured for so long that just doing volume on volume for so many months at a time just was not working, I kept injuring myself and redoing my highest volume weeks, which puts too much pressure on my joints and my tendons that I just couldn't really keep up with it anymore. So again, even though I'm not where I want to be and I'm not where I thought that I would be today, does not mean that that's a step back, It is purely just all right, well, again, the whole part of the whole idea of the first deload getting back into normalcy when it comes to strength training, your core conditioning, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be a week of ass. You're not going to feel great. You never will. It's just, that's That's also me over-exaggerating. Of course, you might feel good to an extent, but it won't be what you want out of a peaked kind of day, you know? So I really thought that it was going to be there today. I really did. It'll feel better every day that I do it. I know that for sure, but it's the patience that you have to have along with it that allows your strength to carry over, you know? Not just the ability to learn and adapt to what you're doing and what your body needs in that moment, because let me tell you, the weights on the program are going down again. I do not care if I start my snatch program at a 225 triple, even though I used to crush that without even thinking. It's no longer there. It isn't. No matter how much I want it to be there, it's not. I did my best work. I got my technique up as high as I could, but when it comes to the conditioning and the consistency, when it comes to every rep, it is not there. You know, this is the first time I've done any sort of volume in months, so it makes sense that even yesterday on my snatches, my warm-ups weren't feeling good at all, you know? So this week really just needs to be, you know, I'm not even going to worry about comparing it to the normal program again. It is going to be solely doing a top set of 5 for squat and a top triple for, a top set of 5 for any power lift and a top set of 3 for any Olympic lift. But I'm just sticking to warm-ups this week, man. It cannot be that heavy, you know? As much as I feel okay and I had enough energy to burn to push it today the way I did, I used to never fail my weights, ever. And that's how a progressive overload works to an extent. You know, there's always the possibility, but man, if you truly listen to your body and take a break when you need it and, you know, do every weight that you earn along the way at its own pace, you should not really be ever failing, you know? You should be able to notice and stop when you've hit as high of an effort that you needed to put in for that day. And that would have been 385, yes. But even so, all of my fatigue is bundled up right now and thrown across in a very confusing way throughout the program. Typically, when I do a program, I try to calculate exactly when a certain amount of fatigue is going to hit me. You know, that's why I go the hardest on that first heavy snatch or clean and jerk day, and then I follow the next day by recovery, Olympic lifting with heavy back squats, and then I finish with recovery, Olympic lifting, and recovery bench, because that's just, at the end of that third day, I'm going to be destroyed, you know, and then I flip the bench and the squat for the last half of the week, because my heavy clean and jerk day makes it to where doing squats the day after does not feel good going heavy. Everything's planned. Everything has a reason and a purpose behind it, and I've been training with so little purpose for so long, and not in the sense of that there wasn't a goal, but it was purely just have fun, mess around, get passionate about some funky lifts, and let your body recover type programs. There was never an expectation of strength. There was never a hope to, you know, crush whatever goal at a certain time. It was just have fun every day, give yourself enough energy to keep going, and figure it out as you go. And now, the goals, the mindsets, the hopes, everything's switching up. So I have to understand that right now, this is the best I got, you know? And when it comes to where my fatigue is, I don't know where it is yet, because I haven't given it enough effort and enough time and experience to know exactly how I'm going to feel on exactly which days. So, one way or another, I'm happy with it. You know, physically, I can give it a solid, 7.6, you know? Wasn't anything crazy, but it was definitely pretty decent. And even though the weights that I chose were not moving the way I wanted them to, they still did move well. You know, even at the 395 set, the first 3 reps were very consistent. That fourth one was where my core just completely started breaking down, and I'm like, damn, I do not have it in me anymore. It's wild. It really, it takes me back sometimes, and I'm like, it's both humbling, slightly disappointing, but also makes me appreciative of how far I've come. Because just 2 weeks ago, almost 2-3 weeks ago, I squatted 455. Felt great, you know. Front squatted 385. But the lack of volume and the lack of consistency, the lack of strength goals does not mean shit when you get back on that normal progressive overload. It doesn't. You have to be able to really enhance and utilize that patience and that effort to the highest of your ability when it comes to whatever you plan for it to be, you know? You're never going to be able to feel exactly as good as you can feel, but you can at least get around a certain ballpark so that you can, you know, that's why I give myself 3 working sets on the power lifts and then 1 top set on the Olympic lifts, because those are the types of rep volumes and set volumes that I know work well with me, or at least that's what was working good. So again, they're open for change when I need them to, but it's solely a matter of, let's take our time. We'll get there when we get there. Let's not rush it and get hurt again, you know? The fact that I could fail a squat today and not feel any pain or a big increase in my fatigue is also a great thing. So it's going to be a little boring, but I need to really enhance what I want to, like I talked about yesterday, I want to enhance what the base of my pyramid is going to be for how much I can work up toward in the next peaking program. So it's just going to be some light warm-ups this week, honestly. I need it. I haven't done anything chill in months and months and months unless it was forced by an injury. And you don't really when you have an injury, you're not going to be able to just do a deload and then peak again. You have to deload and then, build back up to it very slowly to adhere to that injury. And this is the first time in so long where I've had to deload solely because of weakness when it comes to my strength. And I'm about it. We're gonna take our time. It'll get there. Mentally, 7.85. It was still a good day. I'm not upset. I want to do more. But I had a great conversation with one of the older guys there, and he's always great. And he's always just like hyping me up to just do my best, And every time I do it, he's just like, man, I cannot do any of that. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, man. I see you in here putting in the effort. I care about that too. Just because mine looks a certain way or moves a certain way does not make mine any more impressive or important than someone else's. Everybody's putting in their own individual effort, and it's got to be according to what their body's capable of, And so it's really nice to just be able to have that raw positivity, but also just want to uplift each other no matter what we're doing. So it's going to take time, as it's been taking. But again, I need to really relish in the fact that this can be a chill week. I thought doing the weights today was going to be me doing a chill week, but I have to understand that the expectations and the idea and the weights that I was hitting in the previous progressive overload, however many months ago that was, they no longer apply. They are no longer comparable, I got to restart from ground zero. And if that means doing, even putting the squats at 365, I don't care. It's got to start at the weights I know for a fact I can hit so that I can properly build them back up in the long run, I always talk about it. The last time I hit a solid progressive overload program without any pain, I managed to go 14 months without what is it called? Without plateauing once, and that's super impressive on its own. And so even if I have to restart at 365 this time, the last time I did it, I remember way back when I started that progressive overload, I was starting at 285 on squat, It's crazy how far we've come in such a short amount of time, but because I want it now, it feels like it's going to be a long time when it really isn't, So no matter what it is, I'm going to take whatever weights that I do this week, and allocate them to what I'm going to be putting in the program. And I'm going to, no matter what, start it at weights that I know for a fact I can crush, I don't care if it takes another 3 or 4 months to get back to the weights that I used to be hitting. That's what's got to happen. And again, I get to start at a higher weight than I started at last time. I'm restarting. That's what I have to remind myself of. Getting on a new program, restarting the passion, it does not start back where you left off. You have to start from ground zero and build it back up at your own pace, at your body's own pace, The conditioning, my technique, my knowledge, my experience, it's never been higher. I just have to put in that effort now and be patient. So, one way or another, you're going to see it. I'm going to keep doing it, keep being consistent. Loving as many steps of it as I can, even though I wish I could have gone heavier today. But it's fine. We will get there. It'll be there a lot quicker than I think, even though it feels like it's going to be very slow. But I know for a fact after a month or two, I'm going to be sitting here like, man, I'm glad I did it, I appreciate y'all hearing me yap. I will be back. Let me know how the lives and lifts been going. We'll do snatch and bench press tomorrow. Again, this whole week is now just going to be some deload weights. Very, very comfortable triple on snatch. Very, very comfortable set of 5 on bench, Tomorrow's supposed to be a full recovery day anyway, so I need to commit to that so that when I get back on some normal weights next week, I actually have the calculated fatigue built up, Because Because I can't just, even if I feel good to go heavier on bench tomorrow and want to see how much I can do, I have to limit myself that little bit just so that when I get to the normal programming and progressive overload next week, I can do it at the same rate in the same time frame, you know? Thanks for hearing me out. I love you guys. I'll be back. See you.